What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. It's time for fun. I see a lot of good people in the chat already. Got Dylan,
In the
Jenny, the trap. Oh, man. So, yeah, you probably figured it out from the title, but we're going to be talking hip hop hypnosis with 2023's greatest author, easily, Dawg. What's up, dude?
Chance, it's been a long time coming. I'm typically in the chat with the gravy alert, but now we're ladling. So
yeah, man, I
happy to be
knew that
here.
you were a real one because you always made sure and alert everybody to the gravy. I was
Yeah.
immediately, trusting you that that's a great role for you.
Yeah. I mean, there needs to be a siren when there's some major gravy ladling, whether it's Dylan, whether it's Slick Dissident, some of the other guests you had, like Aline Dagan McCusick. She's excellent. So, you've been ladling for a long time. And, I've been in the audience for about a year. So I'm happy to be here. Graduated with the book of the year, The Sharter, A Millennial Journey Out of Hip Hop Hypnosis. And Dylan would be happy to find out that a lot of the characters, the setting for the characters, the group of young people, guys and girls, it actually takes place in Newport, Rhode Island. So that's a fun little tidbit.
Oh, yeah. Dylan's a Northeasterner, right? Is he from in that area?
He's from Newport, yeah.
Yes, Kabir. Gabe is running late, or he has some kind of good excuse, I'm sure. We won't give him any lashings. He's always here. He's always reliable. So I'm sure for whatever reason, he just hasn't quite popped in yet, but we'll catch up with him. He's, I'm sure, excited about this. As usual, he didn't even know we were talking to Dawg today about hip-hop related mind control ops, yet he was already sending me a bunch of weaves about Kanye Quest 3030.
Did you ever know what that means?
Oh, okay. Well, we'll save it for if Gabe pops in, and if he doesn't, then I'm gonna have to steal his thunder and talk about it for him because it's a weird one. But yeah, man. So who the heck are you?
So I'm Dawg. I started writing in around 2015 after I graduated from the University of Rhode Island. That's when I started a hip hop sports blog that is no longer around, but that's how I started writing. I would write top 5 articles, check out this podcast, check out this check out this thing, check out this person, whatever. And then eventually some big time people would start sharing my stuff. I was like, okay, this is going pretty well. From there, I did some other projects. I did an internship. I linked up with Dr. Shiva in 2017. 2018, I started America's #1 Chadcast. That went on for about a year. And then 2019, 2020, I worked on this book, and now it's available right now in 2023. I got my YouTube channel at aldogauthor.com, Instagram, aldogvlog, and I call myself the Al Illuminati because I do a lot of things, and I pull a lot of strings, and I make it happen, man. So we got the book of the year 2023. I have a second book coming out this fall, but can you tell the viewers your experience reading the first 70 pages or so? What'd you think?
Oh man, it definitely hooked me.
Okay, cool.
I must say. So I'm somebody that was more of an outside observer to the hip hop world. Never enjoyed music of that genre much at all. Maybe occasionally as it was remixed into something more fun, electronic-y, but yeah, hip hop never did it for me. So it was funny to read the exact parallel story that the characters in this book go through, at least up to the point where I'm at, that I witnessed with cousins, friends, schoolmates in high school. And there's definitely like already multiple. Yeah, Jenny says she witnessed this. I was laughing out loud for real. Yes.
Nice.
So that's hard to do.
With a book, it's very hard. Yeah.
Yeah. In written
Make somebody
format.
laugh out loud for sure.
Yeah. So there's lots of laugh out louds, and it's super insidious, the rap thing. And I think maybe people are kind of hip to that, but I'm excited to get your take on it. For me, my personal experience and what resonated with me is how, in particular, one of the characters, okay, so it's following, to give people a little synopsis of like the story so far as I understand it, is we're following a friend group of guys from early high school years, kind of jump through that pretty fast and, lay some groundwork. And then we're mostly following their story as young adults coming of age, and how some of them have been completely twisted into a criminal mentality. I mean, they were already they had a lot of things going against him, but the rap music just gave them something horrific to idolize and to watch, particularly one character become like a straight up thug gangster wannabe.
Yeah, Chet.
Wigger. The word for that wigger back then.
Yeah, that was a popular term back in the day for sure. Yeah, that a wigger would probably be somebody who's most under hip hop hypnosis. That word sort of fell out of fashion when the entire generation just kind of absorbed this fraudulent culture, right? And people stopped using that word, but that word applies pretty well to somebody who's under hypnosis. Yeah.
Yeah, and so me personally, I've witnessed. I remember I have a family member, a cousin, who we were really close growing up. We were more like brothers. And this is, if someday he heard this, I'm not saying anything untrue. Love you, buddy. But I witnessed him start to get into particularly Eminem and Dr. Dre. Those were the big ones for him. Dr. Gay. the Sharter version of Dr. Dre is Dr. Gay, G-H-E-Y. That's one of the funny. We have to go over some of the characters you made up, but
okay.
Yeah, so I witnessed him, this cousin of mine, pretty good, young lad, but combination of like the boomer dad and mom who don't really have a good marriage going or good stable family, plus the idolization of especially Eminem. And you got to probably just go off on Eminem for us and talk about that entire thing.
Absolutely. I'd love to. So Eminem.
But anyway, just to finish that up, I saw this cousin of mine, transform from like me, just like a well-meaning, nice young lad into drug abuse, criminal behavior, in and out of jail, absent from his own son's life, all kinds of stuff. And it's not like you can just point at one thing and blame the music, but the music definitely gave him all the wrong things to idolize. And so I'll just leave it there.
So Eminem bridges the gap between the baby boomers and millennials and Gen Z who grow up with hip hop. So I had an experience, and I've talked to a few other people, specifically 2 girls I dated who had the same exact experience where my dad was a huge Eminem, huge Dr. Dre fan. My first girlfriend, her dad, professor, huge Eminem fan, huge Dr. Dre fan, that 2001 era. Another girl I dated later in life, it was the same deal. Her boomer dad loved Eminem, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg. That particular era, that 2001 era, specifically with the Marshall Mathers LP, Dr. Dre's The Chronic 2001, bridged the gap between the baby boomers and their offspring. So the baby boomers, right? Rock and roll is just as bad, in my view, as hip hop. It's sort of a weapon. It's something that's used to tune the populace, tune them into a vibration, onto a frequency. Lil Wayne, for example, one of his nicknames is Lil Tunechi. Why does he call himself that? He's kind of tuning his listeners, right? And that's something that sort of intersects with your work. But
tuning
Eminem,
their chi.
Yeah, exactly. So it's tuning the vibration of the generation. And with Eminem specifically, I remember listening to the Marshall Mathers LP when I was 10 years old. And to be honest, it's pretty incredible. Like, it's an incredible work of art. He was an angry, uncensored artist who was just flying off the hip, and people were sort of identifying with some of his emotions, with some of his turmoil he grew up with, right? Personally, I think that Eminem's first couple albums are incredible, right? Because he was uncensored. It was like South Park on record, right? So I was into it, and I had great reverence for him growing up, right? Later, he gets into some issues. Byron Williams, a man by the name of Byron Williams, Eminem's bodyguard, wrote a tell-all book about Eminem, and in it, he spills the tea on Mr. Shady. And the best way I could describe Mr. Marshall Mathers is that he is the type of guy to have $1 million in the bank and still be getting into an argument with his uncle in a yard. Like, he's like one of those guys at his core. So Eminem really did bridge the gap, and he did sort of bring hip hop to a, basically the white audience, to put it blankly, because I don't think our demographic would necessarily listen to it if it wasn't for Eminem bridging the gap. I personally do believe that the original Eminem overdosed in 2008. Between 2008 and 2012, I think it's a straight up Paul McCartney situation where he actually, I think the original Eminem is dead. And I think what we see today is a replacement. The reason why I say that is because there's this really strange mass ritual type thing that happens often in hip hop where people are shown things in a music video and then it happens. Eminem, his Like Toy Soldiers music video, his buddy Proof dies in the video. And then later in the real world, his buddy Proof died. And I think that after his buddy Proof died, I think that he developed some serious drug problems. And I do think he passed away. And I do think that the guy we're seeing nowadays, completely different style, completely different tempo, not the same artist in my view. So that's kind of,
I'm just gonna screen share,
yeah,
you know, what comes up in a quick search on what you just said.
Yeah.
So that people can, you know, look into that for themselves. But this is the then and now.
Mm-hmm.
There's maybe something to it.
Yeah. He got replaced in my view. I think they found a guy because the hardcore listeners of Eminem were not happy with his albums, you know, post 2008 after 8 Mile. That's kind of when his career and his music career apexed. After then, he started just yelling. He started just screaming. It wasn't this smooth delivery. It wasn't the same comedy. It was this guy trying super, super hard to be Eminem. That's what we saw. And yeah, I don't think it's the same dude, but yeah.
Eminem and yeah, there's even that song, The Real Slim Shady.
That's funny. Yeah.
Did you ever look into his connection as the grandson or great grandson, I think, of Samuel Liddell McGregor Mathers? Basically, more often known as McGregor Mathers, a very high-ranking member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and pretty influential occultist of the late 19th century.
Mm-hmm. No, I haven't looked into that.
Well, the other thing about this is we have, you know, as Clint talked about a few weeks ago, he was talking more about the presidents being all related to the royalties of Europe, but that actually applies to most of the celebrities too. And
absolutely.
I think there's probably what's going on with Eminem as well, or Slim Shady or Marshall Mathers or whatever you want to call him. He's definitely, though, related to McGregor Mathers. Don't know much about McGregor Mathers, but I do have a lot of suspicions around the Order of the Golden Dawn being sketchy.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we could talk about Eminem and 50 Cent for quite a bit because they play a role on the world stage. And I'm going to get into 50 Cent in a little bit, but Eminem, okay, the thing about him was that, like I said, he bridged the gap. He was talented in his early days. He did have sort of this underdog sort of, you know, narrative to him. You know what I mean? But, you know, he was he said some wild shit. He said some funny shit, when he was back in his day. He said shit that he would never say nowadays. You know what I mean? And with 50 Cent, all right, Eminem sort of introduced 50 Cent onto the world stage. 50 Cent plays a role. And this is going to sound a little wild. This is going to sound a little bit into the Gabe territory. But I do believe that 50 Cent...
Someone's got to represent the Gabe territory.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to go there. We're going to go there right now because I think that 50 Cent and the G Unit played a role in the war in Iraq. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't think it's a coincidence that when the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003, and from a logistical standpoint, it's pretty wild to think about. What do you think they were listening to? They were listening to Get Rich or Die Trying, which came out in, I think, between 2000 and 2003. That's when it came out. The G Unit, the guerrilla unit, they were an entirely militarized gangster unit that was the most popular during this time. Now, 50 Cent was a super alpha guerrilla gangster, right? He got shot 9 times. He survived. And then they recruit the Game from the West Coast. He got shot allegedly 5 times and survived. They got Young Buck, they got Lloyd Banks, they got Tony Yayo. And so they're this criminal group, right? And so they kind of apexed gangster rap, okay? Because it doesn't get more gangster than a guy who took 9 bullets and a guy who took 5 bullets, and then they're beefing, and then the group breaks up. But I'd like to get back to 50's role in sort of the war in Iraq because, A, that's what the soldiers were listening to. you know what I mean, to get amped up and go into battle and take over that country, which is, it's mind blowing from a logistics standpoint. It's not moral, probably very bad, right? A lot of people died, RIP. But to actually do that, it's pretty mind blowing. But anyways, so 50, right? There's a video game. It's literally 50 Cent shooting in a desert in Iraq. And if you were to like Google it, just like 50 Cent video game, Iraq, something like that would come up. But it just sort of encapsulates the role that gangster music does play on the world stage, that group specifically, but also the fact that this isn't an organic thing. This is social engineering. And where it's been in the early 2000s to where it is today, where they're explicitly talking about opiates, they're explicitly talking about all these ludicrous substances explicitly, and people are listening to that in their ears all day, every day. It's insane that I personally ever listen to that shit. It's insane that millions and millions of people regularly listen to that stuff all day long as their number one go-to for music, for a music genre. So I think that snapping a generation and the generation younger than us out of hip hop hypnosis via humor is probably one of the most important things that we can do.
I think absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not at all slowing down.
Mhm.
Right. And I just got sent Affirmations, Doggyland Kids Songs and Nursery Rhymes by Snoop Dogg. Apparently he's got a 4Kids YouTube channel, Doggyland.
And here's the thing. So he's targeting the kids, right? The Snoop Dogg character is targeting the kids with his content, right? But what does Snoop Dogg do? Snoop Dogg smokes weed all day, every day. And one of the greatest books I've read is called Drugs as Weapons Against Us by John L. Potash. And what a lot of these artists do is they're basically used as mascots for drugs, whether it's pharmaceuticals or illegal drugs. Let's take Wiz Khalifa, for example, who normalized every day, all day marijuana use. It was Wiz Khalifa and Lil Wayne, essentially, right? Prior to Wiz Khalifa in 2012, we would never see pot in music videos. He was the guy who put pot in his music videos in obnoxious amounts, and he was smoking it all day, every day. But that normalizes it to the populace. What do we see with
this is Overton window?
Exactly. But it gets so much more ridiculous. Let's take Future. Future is one of the most popular artists out today. Two of his most popular songs, one of them is the chorus is literally Molly Percocet, Molly Percocet. That's the chorus, okay? And it's super popular, and there's a flute, almost like he's the Pied Piper or some shit, right? And then he's got his new song. It's a huge, millions of streams. It's Smoking Dope Turned Me Into a Superhero. That's the chorus, just over and over and over. So for me, I snapped out of hip hop hypnosis when I started studying it sort of as an anthropologist, because I have to be honest in the fact that if these guys are competing linguistically, right? They're competing and they're killing each other sometimes, right? I have to admit that's pretty damn entertaining. And there's gang wars in between, and there's social media battles. From an entertainment standpoint, it's off the charts, right? But in terms of listening to the music over and over again, that became something I couldn't do after I started studying it as an anthropologist. So specifically with me, I snapped out of hip hop hypnosis really between 2015 and 2019, 2020. And the reason why I snapped out of it, because I was studying all the deaths that occur like every quarter. 2017 to 2018 was outrageous. There was Mac Miller.
Can you even back up a little bit and
absolutely.
Walk us through why you were drawn to it, how you started to wake up to the truth of it? Like, because this is in the novel through one of the characters that feels most like you.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to watch that evolution in the narrative form. But what was it like for you? Like, what was the first moment that you can remember where you're like, wait, this is not healthy?
Okay, that's a great question. So for me, it started out pretty young, right? Who'd I look up to? I looked up to Eminem and 50 Cent. And the thing is, the kids I looked up to also looked up to Eminem and 50 Cent. My neighbor, great athlete, great guy, biggest Eminem fan ever. So you have an entire sort of cohort looking up to these false idols. And then from there, they're coming out with music, and it's entertaining and it's popular and it's whatever. And it's very tribal when you're very young, because you and your group of friends, you listen to a certain type of music, and that kind of identifies your clique, right? So for
me, it was like
Yeah.
Blink 182.
Yeah.
Me and my
Right.
friend group, and we imitated them with our instruments. At least with that type of music, they were such shitty guitar players that it was easy to imitate, and we were at least playing music. You know, with the hip hop Hypnosis, the most likely thing you'll do is maybe try to do some mumble rap these days, which is terrible. But anyway, it's very similar. It's a similar thing, without getting you too off track. Just how Blink 182, I remember they put out this one live album, and it was like our treasure because we had to bootleg a copy because we weren't 18, so we couldn't buy it ourselves at Walmart, and our parents wouldn't buy it for us. And they're just like, in between their 2-minute super sped up crap songs, they just make really weird jokes about like their uncle molesting them and poop and things, like really low level stuff. And we just thought it was so hilarious because it was so vulgar. And those were our idols, man. That was what we did. And it's very similar. It's not really that different, other than instead of kind of training you up mentally to be a criminal wannabe gangster, that type of music was more like getting you to be a simping, you know, completely emasculated type.
Yeah, they all have different weapons. For example, I think country music is just as bad as hip hop. Like, country's music is really no different, because instead of, glorifying criminality, country music wants you to be a drunk idiot. Like, a guy was playing it at work today, and it's just all about getting drunk and being sad, like all of the songs. So it's like there's different weapons for different demographics. But yeah, the hip hop stuff, and it's not like I'm out here rallying, hey, turn off that music, kids. It's using humor to point out the obvious. Like, when you see a 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid and he's bumping that music going down the street, that car is a mobile mental asylum. Okay, he doesn't look cool.
I literally
when
witnessed this today when I was driving. That I was actually getting gas, and I just heard this, terrible sounding rickety subwoofer in a trunk. And I looked over at the street, and it's this like white early 20s dude, but like listening to some terrible mumbling rapist.
Yeah, it's the sacred cow of not only the early 20s, but guys well up into their 40s, 50s. Like, oh, don't take away my rap music. This guy's my hero. He's sort of narrating a life I want to live, and then I can vicariously live through this character that this guy is portraying, right? So once I got into, the 50s and the Eminems, it was unavoidable for, kids my age growing up. From there, it evolved into the Kanyes and the Lil Waynes and the Wiz Khalifas. But once 2017, 2018 rolled around, and actually it was really 2014. I was a huge Lil Wayne fan, and I was also a Young Thug fan. So what ended up happening was Lil Wayne's tour bus got shot up in April of 2015. And it turned out the person who shot up Lil Wayne's tour bus was the former road manager of Young Thug. And I'm like, oh my God, this is diabolical. So I got completely obsessed with that situation, because I grew up like, oh wait, that Tupac guy died, that Biggie guy died, Kurt Cobain died. What the hell's going on here? So once Wayne's tour bus got shot up in April of 2015, I was like, oh my God, this is a huge fucking deal to me. It was a huge deal to me at the time. So I dived into all that research. Fast forward to 2023, Young Thug is incarcerated on RICO conspiracy. It turned out that he did order, or he had something to do with, an attempted assassination of Lil Wayne. Young Thug also was rap partners with a guy by the name of Rich Homie Quan. Rich Homie Quan was, and I didn't know this until 2022, Rich Homie Quan was managed by a man named Nut. Nut was like a gang leader / music manager. Young Thug had Nut killed. And that's why Young Thug and Rich Homie Quan broke up as a rap group. Now, Young Thug Jeffrey Lamar Williams, is incarcerated on RICO conspiracy charges. So that happened, right? 2014, 2015. I'm still sort of listening to it when something new comes out. Used to be a huge fan, but I'm sort of on the peripheral. I'm diving more into the anthropology, studying the criminality, because the criminality, the beefs, the murders, sorry, but it's fucking entertaining. It really is. Even if you don't like the music, the fact that these guys are shooting at each other and they're creating art. The art sucks, but they're still creating art as they do so, is fascinating. So I'm studying that. 2014, 2015, 2017, 2018 rolls around, and there's a big rapper death every quarter. Mac Miller, Nipsey Hussle, Lil Peep, XXX Tentacion, Juice World. So the 2017 to 2019 time period, I'm going into sort of the ritualistic aspect of it. I'm fully on board with the sort of music conspiracy genre. I've read all the books, Mark Devlin, Isaac Weishaupt, all of them, right? So I'm studying all these different deaths that are occurring. I'm seeing similar patterns. And I'm like, is this a ritual? Is this a sacrifice? Is this some just dirty plays with management? Are people financially benefiting from the artist's demise? Right. So I'm going back with all these different theories. I'm studying all of them, from XX Tentacion's death to YNW Melly's double murder that he's currently on trial for right now. All of that. And I was like, this is ridiculous, dude. This is absolutely insane. All these guys are dirtbags. And the fact that I'm listening to this music is disgusting. And so I fully snapped out of hypnosis. I, through my own research, I was like, this is just gross, dude. I can't do this anymore. And it was a really big moment for me, which you asked was actually putting on Lil Wayne's The Carter 5, because I grew up a huge Lil Wayne fan. And then I put it on, and I'm like sick to my stomach, dude. I have like a physical reaction. I'm like, this music, this sucks. Like, I can't listen to this shit. This is all negative. It's absurd. And so that was for me a big moment. So I decided to take all my research and satirize it and create these characters and tell this tale of the Sharter, a millennial journey out of hip hop hypnosis.
It's really great. I'm glad we're talking about it, because I'm starting to get more of the references and jokes of the book that would go over my head, because I don't know that Lil Wayne has albums called The Carter, but the Lil Wayne character in this book is Lil Stain.
Yeah, it's Lil Stain.
And so the title, The Sharter, is a reference to the Carter. That's fun, because philologically you can even switch a C with a SH. So it's already there. It's in there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, man. So maybe I want to talk about, I want to read this from the book. Okay. I mentioned that I wanted to read this. It was the point where I was like, this is really important. And I've heard this kind of thing before here and there, but I've never read this article. So what I want to do is, it's a little long. So at any point, if you want to just jump in and make commentary, I encourage that. That way we can maybe break up some of the reading with some commentary on what is in here. That way some of the points don't go past us as we're going through this. Anyway, this is a testimony, if you will, called The Secret Meeting That Changed Rap Music and Destroyed a Generation. Do you know if the person who put this out, who wrote this, ever was identified or came forward, or was this totally anonymous?
Totally anonymous, to my knowledge.
So
and just so you know, I kind of satirized it a little bit. I exaggerated. I took the essay and I sort of, incorporated some things of my own.
Okay. So maybe you can let us know. Which points you satirized this.
Okay.
So it's okay to read this though?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Hello. After more than 20 years, I've finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music, racial and spiritual warfare, and ultimately American society. I have struggled for a long time, weighing the pros and cons of making this story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I have decided to leave out names and the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for, something the world at large wasn't ready for. Between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I came from Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in the business. The industry was different back then. Since technology and media weren't accessible to people like they are today, the industry had more control over the public and had the means to influence them any way it wanted. This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of music business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Little did I know that we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices I've ever seen. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people being there, most of them familiar faces. Speaking to those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting, as many of us did not care for rap music and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private gathering to discuss its future. Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be in our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign a confidentiality agreement, preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued and disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very, very clear on the matter, and consequences which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but couldn't find anyone who had answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out.
What page is this real quick?
This is page 50 right now.
Okay, 50. Yeah. Okay, cool. Do you want to read some of the reactions from the characters as well? Is that in there?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because so in this scene, he's doing a great job of reading sort of my satirized version of this essay, but our characters are sort of reacting as this is occurring. So you'll see there's sort of different levels of hip-hop hypnosis.
Yeah, the one character who's reading it to the other friends, he's the one who's like Dawg, who's researching hip-hop, and he's snapping out of the hypnosis.
Right.
And then, yeah. So we asked...
Well, if you can, read what you can, because some of their commentary is rather...
No, it's fine. I'm into it. Well, read it.
Okay.
I'll just read this. Yeah, this is great. Give people an idea of what is going on here. Okay. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but couldn't find anyone who had answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. No one stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me. A man who was a part of the unfamiliar group collected the agreements from us. Yo, Chet grumbled, taking a drag from his Newport and soiling the butt with orange Cheeto powder. The fuck is this shit even about? Get to the point, my G. No, hold on. I want to hear this, Rick shot back, naturally taking command. He leaned forward on the sofa, hanging on to Colby's every word. Y'all high as fuck, Chet snickered, waving away his words with his pinky ring-adorned right hand. Colby went on. Quickly after the meeting began, one of my industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless, like everyone else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no further details about his personal background. He spoke with an accent I couldn't recognize and had a strange, ageless quality about him. He smelled faintly of sulfur. Now, did you add that?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, when I read that, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Still, I think there's probably something to that.
Yeah.
I think he was the owner of the residence, but it was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we'd achieved in our industry and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable. The speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement. So it's like stocks and bonds and some shit, piped up Dusty through a mouthful of Cheetos, barely listening. He explained that the companies we work for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons and billions in pharmaceutical firms, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Rappers would be used to advertise the use of opiates in their lyrics and music videos, starting small with the use of lean, an opiate-infused liquid mixed with soda. As the decade passed, they'd be naming specific brand name opiates in their rhymes. I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in confusion. Syrup, said Rick ominously. Colby nodded. Stains, which is Lil Wayne, Stain's famous styrofoam cup were playing in his mind's eye. He'd just been using it on TV for all to see, pure product placement, and it had worked like a charm.
Yeah.
So yeah, as this goes on, I think
so.
that
This is
kind
funny,
of
but it's true, right?
Yeah,
Because
this
Lil
starts
Wayne,
to set up what I wanted to get into, which is how this entire rap music thing is a advertisement for pharmaceutical companies.
Absolutely, yeah. So Lil Wayne essentially normalized the use of opiates via his plastic or styrofoam cup. He actually wasn't the originator. It originated in Houston with a guy by the name of Pimp C, and from a group called UGK. They sort of put it on the map. But Lil Wayne took their stuff, essentially their idea of drinking a liquid opiate mixed with soda and putting ice cubes in it and calling it lean and drinking it publicly and then drinking it in front of millions and millions of impressionable people. So from there, this opiate becomes a part of everybody's vision, right? And it becomes normalized. So that kind of encapsulates the insidious nature of hip hop hypnosis, because let's say you're a casual Wayne fan, you've seen this man drink opiates thousands of times, right? And that has an effect on the population for sure. Yeah. You want to see something funny, dude? I got a Lizzo shirt on. This is she's the final boss of hip hop hypnosis, Lizzo.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Dude, I saw this kid like ironically rocking a Lizzo shirt in the gym, and I just saw it and I took his idea. I couldn't help it. So here I am.
Okay, so it doesn't even seem like it needs to be explained how obvious this trick is, that the same investment firms, if you will, or individuals or groups or whatever are pushing this stuff into the music, through the culture, through music, and then profiting on it, going up and down, selling of the drugs, incarcerating of the prisoners. Every detail of it is a big profit farm. So the question is really, the only question I have, because it's obvious that this is true, is like, are demons behind it? And for a point into the column of demons would be something I've always thought, especially how, like, you know, as Badfish Bear says, there are a lot of songs with the word Percocet in them. Well,
Yeah.
just, you know, one thing I noticed a long time ago is how these pharmaceutical drugs, their names read like something out of a demonology grimoire, you know, like Xyzal, Percocet sounds like demonic. So, you know, are they summoning demons just in the music itself through the names of these substances? And I think there's a good argument for that, because you know, whenever you're on these things, it replaces your consciousness with something else. Hell, even alcohol does to a large degree if you go far with it. So yeah, what do you think of this?
I think quite a bit about that, because a rapper by the name of XXX Tentacion, Jase Recordo Onfroy, was asked during a live stream. Somebody asked him, "Hey, are you a demon?" And he said, "No, but I have demonic energy." And he said that flatly, and he said it rather plainly. And I think he was being very honest when he said that. It was my research of that particular artist, who's huge. He died, but even in death, he's a huge, huge artist. Very, his fans are sycophantic freaks for the most part. But he said that he was very honest. But if you look at that kid's Twitter profile to this day, it's all Crowley. And he was into some very dark occultic stuff at a very young age. And I think through there, and sort of the Faustian bargain of doing whatever it takes to make it in the music industry opens up a portal to the demonic realm for sure. Another great example is YNW Melly. And if you just Google this guy, he's currently on trial for double murder. So of his friends who were in a rap group with him, YNW Juvie and YNW Sag Chaser, both shot and killed allegedly by YNW Melly. He could be the first rapper to get the death penalty. So is in studying those two particular cases where I said to myself,
this dude looks like a demon.
Exactly.
It looks like
Here's
a demon.
The thing. Right. Look at Lil Wayne nowadays. He's going to look like a demented he already looks like a demented pirate. You know what I mean? They're all going to look like trash. And this guy already looks like trash. So this guy, this particular case here, he also did a school shooting incident. He literally shot at one of his at his high school. He shot at people at his high school. He did that. And then this is where it gets crazy, man.
There's Lil Stain.
That's Lil Stain. Anyways, with YNW Melly, he has his most famous song is called Murder on My Mind, where he talks about killing somebody in a car. And then guess what? It happens. He ends up, allegedly, he's on trial, killing two of his best friends in his car. He has those two friends that he killed in an interview with Adam 22 of the No Jumper channel. Full name, Adam Grand Mason is his full name. Go figure. In an interview, he talks about how he has his friends tattooed on his sort of temple area here. And then he ends up killing them. And now he's on trial. So it was like, and he's a mainstream artist. Like, I'll be at work or something like that, and people will be like, oh yeah, I like YNW Melly. It's like, dude, he committed a double murder. You know what I mean? It's absolutely outrageous. You know? So there's a lot of big ritual stuff that occurs when millions and millions of people are watching these music videos. They get emotionally attached to these artists, and then these artists go bye-bye, and their sales skyrocket the day they pass away, and people probably financially benefit, and it causes a big hoopla, and then that's it. That artist is gone, and then there's a new artist to take their place.
Yeah, the fetishizing and idolization of these artists,
Sharter
air
really
quotes, is like in itself the possession.
Yeah,
you know, like if you are idolizing and fetishizing any of these characters, they are taking up real estate in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention the repetitive. I think about this all the time. You know, there's things in my life that before I realized that you can never unsee what you've seen, you can never unhear what you've heard. And I was, you know, before I was more cautious with my inputs. Think about the on repeat nature of this. It is akin to a type of possession, especially when you get possessive of this genre and of these artists and self-identify with it. It's you know, I don't want this conversation to just be like, oh, they're so terrible, this is so terrible, but I do want to maybe get your take on how we can improve our rhetoric through humor to disarm this giant booby trap that's been laid out for the youth for many, many decades.
It's this, baby. We did it. Because I figured, man, humor will snap through a good spell, and making fun of these false idols and slaughtering the most sacred cow to a lot of guys around our age is still hip hop music, because they are under the belief system that, oh, this is entrepreneurial. Oh, the beats are so good. All these guys are just trying to make it in business, man. They're just
You're
trying to
racist if you don't like it, probably.
Exactly. Something like that, to that effect. It's so outrageous. But to put things into context, a big moment for me was I was at work, and there was this baby boomer, and he was belting out this Rolling Stone song word for word. Okay. And I thought to myself, I was like, I was disgusted, right? But then I realized I knew all the words to that Rolling Stone song as well. And now if I think about all the hip hop lyrics that I know, right? What a big fucking waste of time. So instead of, you know, studying or listening to hip hop in my car, I study Russian, right? I try to learn a new language, very, very entry level, not an impressive.
Oh, cool. I'm doing that with Greek.
Exactly. So do you listen to it in your car?
Yeah. It's the best time to do it. I'm like
Exactly.
driving around, like, repeating
Yeah.
after the audio. It's awesome.
It is, because I'm in my car 2 hours a day. So instead of listening to garbage lyrics, whether it's rock, whether it's hip hop, I'm trying to learn a new language. I'm not anti-music by any means. I love music. And the thing with me is, ever since I've lessened my appetite for music, it sounds so much better. Like if I hear if I hear an Alanis Morissette song in the bank, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best song I've ever heard.
So you're like
Another
less, you're not as desensitized, you mean?
Exactly. And I think that the iPod really made people's, not even the iPhone, I'm talking the iPod, really made people's appetites for music completely insatiable. It's absurd to have thousands and thousands of songs in the palm of your hand, just on demand. Oh, I'm bored of that song. New song. 30 seconds later, new song. It's training you like a monkey to
Well, it
be.
goes even further with
Yeah.
streaming services and Spotify, of course.
Yeah. I never really use those for the most part, but yeah, it's but like if you were to go to, let's say, a college campus or anywhere, you will see people with, or a gym, people just with their headphones in all the time is kind of an absurd thing to
It's
do.
the college campus is where it's the worst. I remember
Yes.
that.
Yes. You, especially when those Beats headphones were popular. That was the most absurd things. Kids
And
didn't take those
podcasts
off.
weren't that popular yet, so it's just like everywhere you went, everybody was in their own pod bubble.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
the
my
iPod is the
God.
perfect name for it, because when you have those earbuds in and you're dead to the world around you, since in terms of sensory input, yeah, it's literally like the symbolic being in your own little pod, your pod people.
Dude, that's such a good point. I never thought of it like that, but it's so true.
Yeah, and now it's the AirPods.
Yeah. So think about being in a pod where some man, some popular pirate looking group, whether it's YNW Melly or Lil Wayne, whoever, they're normalizing this most absurd behavior, right? But there's millions and millions of people in these pods. So we got to snap them out of it via humor, right? That's the only way to do it. You can smile and laugh and break out of your shell, get out of your pod. Some people are too far gone. And, because, music, in my view, is probably the most powerful magic in all of the realm, for
Well,
good or for
Dylan is
bad.
saying in the chat here,
Yeah.
as someone who is in Hollywood, he's saying the movie industry wasn't dark at all in relatives to the music industry.
That's a
That the
good
movie
point. That's
industry was
amazing.
more about sex and drugs, but the music industry is, as he says, next level dark occult. I'll take his word
Yes,
for it. He was there.
100%, man. Doing the research that I've done and doing the reading that I've done and seeing people sort of enter that industry and exit, like, yo, I'm getting out of here type shit. Like, yep, that sounds totally valid.
And it's really insidious how they sell, you and I being up here doing this to some degree are acting out the implantation of the dream of, like, if I can just get a following, if I can just make it big, if I can just have a little fame, then my life will be great. That we were constantly indoctrinated with through music more than anything else as youth, right? And the internet age has made everybody, not everybody, but like most people are trying to do something like that, trying to influence, trying to be streamers. And it's fine. I like the decentralization of people's entertainment and information. I think it's
Yeah.
good, but we have to get real. Like, I have to get real about that how much of my behavior, how much of me doing this as a profession is motivated by I want as many people to like me as possible versus I want to share useful information and help pull people up. And, most of the time, I think I stay pretty good in the lane of doing this for the right reasons. But those seeds are in there, dude. Those seeds of, like, I want to be popular, I want to be liked, are definitely there.
Yeah, I have a few thoughts on that. For me personally, I want to sell books to 10,000 people and I hope they love it. That's my personal goal, and I hope they enjoy my book every year. I want to come out with a book every year. I got another one coming out this fall, and that's what I hope to achieve, because I think that that'll be sustainable in the sense that um I don't think that selling like a book, right, it requires a lot of volume. I see the book game, for me personally, changing. I think that authors will sell 1,000 books or 10,000 books for $100. They'll make it leather bound, they'll make it an incredible product, and then they will sell it for $100 versus trying to sell, 100,000 paperbacks, right? Because the game is rigged. All these games are rigged, whether it's social media, whether it's music. We all know incredibly talented musicians that will not and do not make it in the music industry because it's a rigged game. So in terms of making it, like I have a friend who's an incredible songwriter, incredible musician, incredible voice, writes his own songs, makes his own music videos. He's a lot more talented than people in the music industry. Not that they're not talented, because the thing is, a lot of them are super talented, but he's really good, right? He plays at local shows and he rocks the house. He's already made it in a sense. This sort of unattainable.
Yeah, like the local thing, being
Yeah.
a local hometown hero, that's great. I feel like
Mhm.
that's a good enough level of making it if you can
Mhm.
get there.
Yeah. But yeah, there is sort of this I think that kind of echoes the idol worship, right? Like if you ever read I think it's the scenes from Laurel Canyon, weird scenes from Laurel Canyon by a guy named I forget his last name, but that's the book. He talks about how a lot of these big time rock groups are directly linked to intelligence. So,
Is
they're
that David
a part
McGowan?
of social engineering. What?
Is that McGowan?
Yes, that's the guy, McGowan. I read his. That's a classic. And then Mark Devlin goes into some of this stuff as well. So the entertainment game it's not without talent, because let's take Ariana Grande for example. She's been trained since birth. Yeah, oh, she's a Illuminati pop princess, whatever. She's been trained since birth. She can fucking sing, man. She can sing. Like she can sing. There's this one Stephen Colbert little video where she can sing like Britney Spears. She can sing like Christina Aguilera on command and nail it. So it's not like these people aren't talented. A lot of them are super talented and they're trained since birth to fill their roles. But in terms of wanting to be, I went through a phase of wanting to be a rapper. I recorded a mixtape when I was 19. Me and my buddy. You know what I mean? There's never a wrong time
So
to
there's like
promote
a
your
little
mixtape.
bit, all the 4 characters of the friend group, there's a little bit of you in all of them, I bet.
You're absolutely right. That's 100% correct.
Even
And even
Dustin, I'm
some of the
sorry.
cops, because there's not just the group of teens. There's also these cops,
The
officer.
FBI
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Denning and Stantler, and
Oh
then
yeah,
there.
yeah. We should get into like what you may have uncovered about intelligence agencies and their monitoring or even directing of some of this stuff. But
Yeah,
keep going where you're going. But I want to put that on the table.
yeah. So it's all like I cover like all sort of phases of the game with this intertwined plot. We got cops that he was a cop, then he turns into an FBI agent. We got music record executives. We've got a group of girls, a group of guys. We got these rappers, and they're all intertwined with these different plots. And you got to wait to the end. The end is hilarious because I kind of satirized the year 2020 at the end. But yeah, I would say that. What were we talking about? I totally forgot. Oh yeah, intelligence and yeah, I mean it's social engineering. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically it. So
All right. So there's some good comments here from the chat.
okay.
This one though from Dylan, I think is worth addressing. He said this was earlier in the stream. No one bought more rap albums than middle class white women. Now 23% of them in America are single moms. Has to be a correlation. Yeah, I mean, it's on women and men in the sense because, getting hoes for the guys and like, leaving the kids behind. That's all very glorified in the rap music as well. But what I
Well,
think is interesting is this thread of how is rap this generation's like 60s, if you will, is that
absolutely.
early gangster rap thing. Because you brought up hearing the Rolling Stones song and all that. My mom, for example, she has music from 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Doesn't go much outside of that, but there's like the same music that she's been listening to for my whole life and assuming before I was born. And she just always, like, I shouldn't say always, I'm not trying to trash talk you, mom, love you, but there's a lot of her music, maybe 80% of it is from this chunk of all the same on repeat. Like I would get so tired of that. But the point being, it's not just that generation that is getting the program from that music, but also their kids, and how like the way the boomers, some of the boomers just never wanted the party to end. And so they get stuck on the same music decade after decade and never evolve past that maturity level. You know, they're like permanent teenagers. I think the same thing could be going on where people of our generation, like millennials, starting to have kids now, are likely going to unwittingly expose their kids to the same exact type of musical programming, even though it's not the hip or trendy thing anymore because it's from decades before. But it's like once it gets in there, like a broken record, it's on repeat permanently in the consciousness of the collective.
Great points, Chance. And I want to bring up two specific things from Dylan's comment. The first thing that came to my mind when he talked about the hoification, if you will, let's talk about a term like baby mama. Okay, the term baby mama, that term wasn't used in 1999. Okay, maybe 2003, 2004, that term became part of the lexicon, but it's an absolutely absurd term. But nowadays, everybody knows what that means. That's kind of an example of hip hop culture that's, totally inorganic, not grassroots. It's very top down culture affecting the populace. And something you said, Chance, that I think is really important is about people our age having kids. There's no way you can put on freaking gangster rap or any of the in front of your kids. A huge turning point for me was when a cousin of mine, he started having kids, and I used to see this dude at rap concerts and stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, damn, he has kids now. There's no way you can put on that Nipsey Hussle mixtape. You know what I'm saying? Or some absurd Eminem or Lil Uzi Vert, Lil Peep, you name it. Like, you cannot put that. You'd be absurd. You'd be crazy to put that on, in front of your kids, right? Huge turning point for me.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the funniest parts of the book so far was when the characters go to a Lil Stain concert.
Yeah.
The absurdity of that. How much of that was based on, your own experience going to concerts? And can you talk about what I've never been to a big rap show, so maybe tell us more about that.
I went to my first rap show in 2007. We were juniors, and Lil Wayne was like the hottest. This was like prior to the Carter 3. This is like he's the hottest artist on the planet at this point. Prior to the Carter 3, hasn't even been out yet. Summer Jam 2007, presented by Jammin' 94.5. Went to that, saw some absurd behavior.
When did you graduate high school?
2000, not till 2010.
2010. Okay, I got a couple years on you. Almost out.
Yeah,
got it.
So, went there, saw some absurd behavior, participated in some absurd behavior. The cool thing was to smoke weed at the concert. I thought that was incredible. I thought it was amazing because I was 17, and I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. But looking back, it's like, dude, you're fucking, what are you doing?
But
kid?
The way that got normalized
I mean?
so quick, it is. I can't remember the last time I went to a concert and it wasn't filled with weed smoke. I mean, now it's like even recreationally legal, but it's been that way for a while.
Yeah. And so Lil Wayne at this concert, he's so messed up, dude. His eyes, there's no white in his eyes. It's all dark pink. I didn't think he was going to make it. He's just like, yeah, I'm a little, he stopped performing. Like he just started posing. He stopped performing. He's just like, but it was cool at the time. People were going nuts. And then I went to a few Wiz Khalifa shows because me and my friend group were into that. But nowadays, Wiz Khalifa to me is like the most talentless hack in the game. He hasn't progressed as an artist at all. He just talks about smoking joints. And it's like, you're a tool for the establishment. You know what I mean? That's kind of where we're at. I've seen a few other groups, People Under the Stairs, Hootie and the Blowfish. Does that count as a hip hop group? Probably not, but yeah.
Oh yeah. And Ishan just brought up the
so
Travis
this
World
is a good
concert.
one. This is a good one. I know all about that. Let's think about this. Travis Scott, Tavis Stock. Sounds pretty similar, right? Travis Scott, Tavis Stock. I mean, yeah, Tavis Stock. Is in the Tavis Stock Institute.
You're sounding a lot like Gabe right now.
Yeah, let's do this social engineering. But let's take it a step further. Travis Scott, traveling Scotsman. Okay. A traveling Scotsman would be like a Scottish Rite Freemason.
Well, you know what else Scott means? Yeah. Taxed.
Oh,
like
okay. Does
Scott,
it?
like in the origin of the word, Scotted land is
Yeah.
taxed land, crown land. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dylan, for that gravy in one of your
Yeah.
books. I think
So,
Holy Sailors.
so yeah. So it's like somebody like Travis Scott. It's like he's so overplayed and his music sucks, and I don't find him to be likable. So his popularity is just something that's engineered. It's not something that has grown from the grass. It's something that is just dropped from a giant machine in an assembly line. You know?
Yeah, man. So tell us, I think this would be fun to go over some of the parody characters
Yeah. Sure.
in the book. You want
Yeah.
to do that for us?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I got the full list here. So in the book, I talk about my intent writing the book. Welcome to the Sharterverse. It's a parallel universe. Warning: this is not a family-friendly book. I do an introduction where I talk about sort of, my intro and outro of hip hop hypnosis. Then we'll talk about some of the characters because I just like to lay it out and just be. You can't really see it, but I like to be pretty straightforward. We got Kobe. He's a millennial blogger fascinated by hip hop culture. He's friends with Rick, Chet, and Dusty. We got Chet Dorsey. He's the loose cannon of the group, drug dealer, inspiring rapper. Will do whatever it takes to become successful in the rap industry. Rick is his rival within their crew. So there's Rick. There's Righteous Rick. He's an athletic, righteous young man, the moral backbone of the crew. He disagrees with everything Chet does, and they have some interactions. Then there's Dusty, the mediocre slob follower. My personal favorite characters are my favorite character is probably Robert Denning. He's the former New Orleans police officer turned FBI agent, an alcoholic with an old school sense of justice. And he's the father of one of the girls in the group. And so there's the group of girls, Cassandra, you'll read all about her, Stacy, Cindy Lou. Um, then we got Carl Kowinski. He's a hip hop executive, owner of 600 Records, pretends to care about his clients, but his main concern is profiting from their demise. Larry the lawyer. He's an attorney with a special interest in the entertainment industry, an occult practitioner with esoteric knowledge. Friends with Kowinski, Turdman, and
Oh
Anton
yeah, Turd
44.
Man is
Yeah,
Birdman.
yeah. And then instead of young thug, there's young drug. So we got Mr.
Yeah, and
Mishima,
what's the name of Turd Man's record label?
Trash Money Records.
Instead of Cash Money, right? Is that what
Yeah,
the real one
yeah,
is?
it's Trash Money. Yeah,
Trash Money.
yeah, yeah. And then we got Timmy Carlton Winfrey. We got Triple Hex, who is based on XXX Tentacion. I just call him Triple Hex, and a few others. So, yeah, like honestly, a movie that did inspire me. You've seen the movie Crash, right? It's like
No.
okay. Well, it's like this race relations movie, but the cool thing about the movie is like all these plots are intertwined. So that's what happens with the book. Like one chapter will be the group of friends, another chapter will be the cops, which gets really funny. Another chapter will be, the rappers, and it all intermingles, and you'll see.
Yeah, I love plots like that.
Mhm.
For as terrible as it was, without, especially if you remove the laugh track, that was one of the things I enjoyed about Seinfeld, for example, is a bunch of random plots that then all, like cross each other's paths and then all converge in a collision as a finale. So looking forward to continuing it. Once I got going on it, I didn't want to put it down. It is entertaining. I'm not joking. And Jenny vouches for this, that I was legit laughing out loud, even though you did such a good job of keeping the theme of this is shitty.
Yeah, that's the theme, because like, it's a giant metaphor that, essentially rap is crap, and you got the Sharter, and it's sort of the realization of this. You see these characters sort of go in and out of this culture, and you'll see what happens with Chet. Not going to give it away, but it's going to be pretty hilarious.
I'm
What
gonna
happens with
guess he's
Chet.
either going to, well, he probably shit his pants at one point.
He's okay.
And he'll probably be dead or in jail. One of those things.
Or he could make it as a successful rapper.
Oh yeah, he's got what it takes.
I'm not going to tell you. Well, it could be one of those three things. You know what I mean?
It could be all three.
Yeah, another character is Anton 44, and Anton 44 is based on Adam 22. Adam 22 is this big hip hop podcaster, and so I like to make fun of him a lot as well.
Yeah, so this book, a lot of it is over my head because I don't know the culture, but it is tailor made and crafted for somebody who was raised by this music, as our parents tended to be absent from any curation of our cultural intake. The music, the video games, the movies, the TV, that's really what raised guys around 30 like you and me. As good as our parents may have been in many ways, it's like their defenses had already been breached by this exact type of op done through the 60s culture, 70s music culture.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. It's almost like the television was sort of a Trojan horse. And from there, the personal computer was able to enter, and with no sort of safeguards in between, it's a whole hoopla of social engineering.
Yeah, and you really capture that well with Colby's father, Roger, was it?
Yeah, Roger, yeah.
I mean, how many of us out there who are 30-something, our parents cannot exist without, one or both of our parents cannot exist without the TV on. It must be on.
Yeah, that's a big thing with the baby boomer generation for sure. I don't even like being in the same room.
It's like it's a status symbol. Like it makes them feel like I've made it. I've got a big TV. Everything's fine, right?
Yeah. Well, people don't watch television. They worship it. And it tells them everything they need to know, and they don't question it. The thing is, I can't criticize them, right, when I'm looking at my phone way more than I should. So I used to go through that phase like, yo, just stop watching TV. But at the same time, I'm looking at my phone all the time. So I could make the argument that these devices are even more insidious than the one that a lot of the baby boomers do worship.
Yeah, we take it with us.
Yeah.
But the boomers, it's like they got TV and the phone. Because love you, Dad, but when you're not actively watching the TV, you are on the phone. I honestly think that they, in a lot of ways, they may be more susceptible to the phone stuff than us. They have less defenses. They're less technologically adept, a lot of them, and so it hits harder.
Well, what do you think the solution is to get more in touch with nature? Because to me, the solution is the iPhone's incredible, dude. Like, because I upgraded from the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 13, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the most incredible device known to man. But the thing is, it's almost too good, right? It's too good. It's something that needs to be sort of looked at as a vice, but ultimately it should be used as a tool. And I think that is what separates a computer and a smartphone potentially from the television. You cannot use the television as a tool. You can absolutely use an iPhone and a computer as a tool.
I think it might help to, instead of looking at it like, oh, there's some black magic going on in the music industry, or there's some mind control going on with the technology. I would say maybe just go ahead and frame it all as magic.
Yeah.
No one has ever satisfactorily even attempted to explain to me how the hell the thing works, the phone. Like this, it's magic. It's a black reflective fondle slab that contains all the information that is curated and allowed by the masters. It's insane.
Yeah.
And it's a tool though, and it can be, magic is a tool. It's all magic though. I think that will help to, I know most people wouldn't be ready to jump into that mindset, but to look at it like everything you let through your filters is you're deciding what you want your internal world to be. And then as you populate your internal world with what it is you accept through your filters in the external, it then reflects back out into the external world, and you get more of that in your external world. So this is, and I mean, the metaphor I'm using is literal, because this thing, if the screen isn't powered on, it is a mirror. You can see yourself in it. And that's interesting because instead of looking at it like it's a weapon against you, which it can be, but in a way it's like you're doing it to yourself. Look in the mirror. Who is in this box? It's you. And that's my opinion on all the technology in general, is that it's predicated on plagiarizing our innate spiritual capacities that we have anyway. There's a guy in the chat who's just like nonstop talking about out of body travel and stuff like that. But we have those capabilities. How many of us have trained and honed them? not many, right? And that's not I'm the same way. I'm guilty of that too, that I'll take the shortcut. I'll take what's handed to me over, learning how to have a psychic conversation instead. But that's totally possible. And I think a lot of people in this community experience that with our streams or with other streamers they like. I think Owen's streams have the most evident crazy psychic synchronicities as he opens a letter that was sent many days before, and it contains exactly what he was just talking about. So the whole, to me, what helps is to get out of the victimization mindset, is to look at it like, it's not happening to me, I'm happening to it. And that even applies to the culture as it's being created. The whatever demons might be influencing the musicians, maybe you're, whispering in the ears of the people developing this technology, because I don't see how this came about in it. Somebody just thought of it up. Like there's tons of accounts of technological innovations being channeled or downloaded or given in a dream or what have you. And so instead of maybe putting it's a good or bad on it, just say it is what it is. But our responsibility is how we use it. It's always back to our behavior. And I think our behavior can even change the nature of the culture in the long term, because in my opinion, we're running up against when we talk about demons, I would like to just de-supernaturalize that a bit and we're back it up. One of my favorite lines, the laugh out loud lines in the book is you're like talking about somebody driving away, but you're like, they skirt and away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of funny shit like that. But my point being, the demonic realm is the disassociated human soul that is no longer in a body. And so to whatever degree we are internally fragmented and compartmentalized and self-limiting the flow of our life force energy, that's the degree to which this demonic realm has influence over us in the external. And there's always going to be unintegrated, unhealed, in the illusion of separation type of, an aspect of consciousness that's doing that. It's a developmental stage. It's a developmental phase. But the problem comes in when it's always like they're doing it or are we accepting it? Like, let's just get out of the paradigm of us or them and just look at them as a mere reflection of us. So to whatever degree we fear our own success, we fear our own innate power, that's the degree to which we're vulnerable to manipulators who want to keep us in the phase of the hero's journey where we are in codependence and victim mindset, right? So the more that we can heal our own inner division, the less the external stuff has any effect on us. And then the more of us do that, the less demonic energy there is going on to begin with. Because I think it's like people that are psychologically broken when they die and afraid to face themselves in life, well, then they're definitely gonna be afraid to face themselves in the whatever is afterlife, and they'll stay in this disincorporate thing where they want to latch onto and instigate the ability to experience whatever their attachments were in another human body, in another host, as what you call entity attachment. Does all this make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. This is how I think of the demonic realm. I just visualize these demons as flies flying around feces. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they're nothing compared to the owl dog. They don't faze me. You know what I'm saying? I have low opinions of them. So I see what you're saying, but like, yeah, people always go down that road. Oh, the music industry is so evil. They're probably right. They're probably very, very, very right. I think what we can do is sort of be aware of that instead of dwelling on their bullshit. Create our own symphonies. You know what I'm saying? Whether that be going to work every day and doing your thing, or creating a podcast, creating your own work of art. Because I think the human voice is the greatest instrument there is. So people can, dwell on the music industry. That's what made me chose to do a satirical book, because I was going down that path.
You started it out as maybe a research book, not a satirical book?
Yes. So I was going into all these different deaths that occurred within the hip hop industry.
And
I was
you're
like,
like,
you know
oh,
what?
I'm just going to bring more hell to people if I do it this way.
Exactly. So I'm like, I'd rather snap people out of hip hop hypnosis via humor, via this, fiction tale. Fiction's a lot of fun, man, because you can take the truth and you can be more truthful with fiction, in my view, a lot of times more so than nonfiction. So for me, instead of being another, McGowan, oh, check out my expose on the music industry, everybody kind of knows. Instead of doing that, I sort of chose to create my own satirical lane. My next book is satirical as well. It's comedy. This book I would call a comedy crime classic. The next book is about a surf assassin. It's the plight of a surf assassin. And it's sort of in the same vein where I take some
What's
of these.
that?
Yeah, exactly. So this the next book that hopefully will be out this fall is about this surfer who goes to work. He has an incident at work, and a guy passes away, unfortunately. Somebody witnesses it, and the guy who witnesses the murder ends up becoming a benefactor, and he's hired essentially as the surf assassin. And that's my lane. So it's like diving through the mud, the drudgery of some of this evil was actually a blessing in disguise, because it ended up, for me, I ended up creating my own lane from that. Nobody's writing comedy crime fiction books. You know what I mean? Satirical with little stain. Nobody's doing
tragic comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Tragic comedy. That's actually the best way to put it, because it's sort of tragic what's happened.
But that's such a cool blend. Like that's, that's more of a integrated wholeness rather than wearing the tragedy mask or the comedy mask. It's like you're bringing both into it.
Yeah, because you can't really have one without the other. There's sort of a tragedy lurking behind the comedy, but in order to face this
like laughter is a way that we process trauma.
Absolutely, it's
like
a survival.
We wouldn't have humor if we didn't have trauma, to use a loaded term.
Well, I'll take it a step further. I think that humor is a survival mechanism. Okay. So it's not a coincidence. People that are funny often have really interesting lives, or they've had to face challenges, right? Because it's a fucking survival mechanism, right? So humor with this is more effective than I got the documents. You know what I'm saying? Like, trust me, I got the documents. I've done the research. I've been in study for the last 24 hours. And, I finally have, you know what I mean? So it's like, in fiction, I don't really read a lot of fiction. Like, I'm a gravy addict, bro. I'm reading all nonfiction. Like, I'm reading, what am I reading? I'm reading a book about astrology right now. I'm reading a book about the human chakras. These are new subjects to me. I'm intro to astrology. I would put it this way, man. You, Gabe, others, Dylan, swimming in seas, swimming in oceans, sailing ships amongst the gravy. I'm in the shallow end of gravy. You know what I'm saying? I've dived into the gravy within the hip hop industry, and through that, I've formulated my own blend, essentially. But there's all these different topics that I'm reading about, and I don't typically read that much fiction. But I'm starting to realize that a lot of fiction writers they're like real deal writers. And with fiction, I can be.
Oh, it's harder to write fiction in a lot of ways.
Oh my God, it's very hard. It's very, very difficult. I had to go through a lot.
You have to like create internal consistency in this world you make. It's totally different.
Yep. And how the characters intertwine with other characters and their relationships and how those things evolve. But, I never ever thought I'd write a fiction book, dude. You know what I mean? It was through, a lot of different things that it ended up happening. So yeah, I forgot what I was talking about. Something about gravy.
Well, you're talking about the next thing you're working on. So it sounds like you're pretty hooked on authoring.
Yeah.
So, cool, man.
Yeah. It's like I work too, but it's like something that I can obsess over on weekends and something I can voluntarily put myself through turmoil in order to complete a project. And the hope is that people enjoy it. Like you talked about, that makes me so happy that you laughed out loud through this book. And now for some people, I want hip hop. I know hip hop fans who've read the book and they've been reaching out to me. And the cool thing is, a lot of people love the term hip hop hypnosis. I've seen and read people use the term after I've sort of put it into the lexicon. And it's one of those things, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know, you see that 20-year-old kid bumping his Acura, you know what I mean? That kid's under hip hop hypnosis, you know?
Braden says to write good fiction seems you already have to have a grasp on the real world. That ain't easy. That's a good point, man.
Yeah, that's sort of instead of the hero journey, it's sort of the gravy journey. You go through this gravy journey and you have a pretty good cosmology on the real world. And then from there, you know, write satire.
Well, I'm glad you're delving more into the subtle energetics stuff, because that's going to further help you create the feeling of consistency that gives the ring of truth within your fiction. You know, especially even though most people aren't consciously aware of it, say you had a knowledge of chakras or biofield anatomy or what have you. And then, so, you know, you could write a character who has a bum left ankle, keeps rolling his left ankle, but he's also like got crippling anxiety. And you wouldn't have to say that that's a biofield anatomy thing, but it would just feel accurate to people, because even though they might not consciously be aware of how that all is organized in the body, it is there, and it's something they've been seeing their whole life and even experiencing their whole life, and they just never put the pattern together. So getting the pattern, the way nature works, the way our bodies work, will make your fiction that much stronger, for sure. I think all the scriptures, you know, there's a phase where in the gravy mining, if you will, you realize like, oh my God, all these scriptures are fiction. And that's true. But then the next level up is to realize the parable, the allegory, this is way more effective to convey truth than any other way of trying to like just tell it how it is, you know, because really learning doesn't operate on you being told. You know, you can't have authority hand you truth. It's better to inception somebody, you know, let them go along the path for themselves. They have to be asking the questions. I think that's part of why the secret societies are secretive, is so that people will be interested enough to ask the question. And then if you're asking the question, that means you're ready, versus being handed something that you're going to just not appreciate or not comprehend anyway. So with fiction, you're able to take somebody on the story. I even think like along the journey with, you know, as if it's them going on the journey. And I honestly think one of the upsides of modernity is that maybe we're able to process some kind of like karmic conditions from many lifetimes just through identifying with the protagonist of a story whose hero's journey mirrors some kind of thing from our ancestry or thing from a past life or who knows what, but that maybe we can work out a lot of hangups in one lifetime more quickly and effectively than any other point in human history that we have knowledge of. You follow?
I followed the first quarter of that.
But so yeah, I'm just saying, like, you know, there's a lot of negative things about TV per se or movies per se, but also think about how a good TV show or a good novel series or any of these things, if you take that ride all the way to the end, it sticks with you. You learn lessons from it almost as if you yourself were the hero in that story.
Yeah.
And so we're able to have tangential lives through this stuff that gives us the possibility of getting lessons that there are not otherwise available all in one lifetime for one person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the human biofield anatomy stuff you do with Elaine de McCusick. I've read both of her books, mind-blowing stuff. But astrotheology, I think you touched on a little bit. Dude, astrotheology has helped me make sense of the world in a major way. And I would agree with you that studying some of those topics does lead to better fiction without a doubt. Because they're truthful. Those are truthful topics, right? The human biofield as well as astrotheology. If you can incorporate that and then the reader reads it, they might not know, but they're experiencing the ring of truth through fiction, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Fiction that has truth in it is great rather than
Like Token, dude, like that woman you had on the other night. I caught a little bit of that. Token's a legend, right?
Yeah.
Or C.S. Lewis, legend, because they say truthful things within their fictional works, right? And I think a lot of people, they might have reached a point in the gravy where they're like, oh my God, there's some dark gravy out here. What can I do personally to sort of elevate human consciousness? I could potentially create these characters, create this setting. And from there, I can sort of elevate people and create a product that they enjoy that makes them laugh out loud, you know?
Yeah, man. Oh, okay. So I'm going to bring up the Kanye Quest thing, and then maybe we can just talk about Kanye a little bit, because
okay, sure.
I'm sure you know a lot more about it than me, but
yeah,
he's been very interesting lately. Now, there's this thing called Kanye Quest 3030. Okay. And I'm just going to go to the Wikipedia for this, and I'll share it. Gabe was talking to me about this just a couple days ago. He had no idea we were going to do a hip hop stream tonight. So sorry you're missing out on this, buddy, but there's probably a really good reason for it.
He's got the whiteboard. He's working on a new whiteboard.
So Kanye Quest 3030 is a role-playing game from 2013, unlicensed and unauthorized by Kanye West, created by RPG maker Clara Hope under the username Phoenix. It's a hip-hop themed science fiction 2D role-playing game. So here's the plot. In the year 2010, oh God, sorry, I showed Nicki Minaj. Kanye West takes out his garbage before tripping and falling into a portal, which brings him to the year 3030. The United States has become a dystopian society ruled by a clone of rapper Lil B, claiming himself to be a god.
So wait, is this a fictional tale? What is this exactly?
It's a video game.
Oh, okay. And it's so, like, is Kanye like cool with this, or is it like
it's unlicensed and unauthorized?
Oh, so like why? Like what's Gabe's angle on this? He just loves it. He just thinks it's funny. Like what is he?
He just shared this with me, and he's like, "Look at this," and I think we were gonna weave on it, but we'll have to catch up with him later to find out what his take on it is. We're gonna give our take on it. So Lil B in the dystopian future society claims to be a god. He's the ruler. A prophecy exists claiming that Kanye West would return one day and overthrow Lil B. With this knowledge, Kanye West travels to this dystopian society of the future and teams up with other musicians such as MF Doom, Tupac, and RZA to fight to free America. Along the way, they are challenged by other musicians such as Eminem, Nicki Minaj, De La Soul, and LL Cool J.
That's hilarious.
So, well, upon completing the game, Kanye gets sent back to 2010, where it is revealed that he dreamed the whole story after tripping on the pavement and passing out. So apparently it's kind of like a Pokemon style game where you're collecting rappers, and there's a lot of in-jokes, right?
That's funny.
But here's where it's weird. In 2015, an article revealed that if the player typed in the word ascend into a dialogue box with an NPC, the player would be taken to a secret section of the game. In this secret section, the game would claim that the rest of the game's contents was a front for this area, and that the area was designed to help teach you something beneficial. The section is full of terminals, and the player must enter a specific code into each one in order to complete the area. If the player goes backwards, they will enter a room with a QR code, which has to be screen captured at multiple points in order to form the whole code. The website linked to the QR code had nothing but the name Phoenix Gregory placed on the screen in a Comic Sans font. After inputting all the needed codes, the player would be teleported to a final terminal that would congratulate them on their ascension and then prompt for another code. Upon entering the correct code and agreeing to participate further, agreeing is the keyword, the player would then be asked for their private information. This was theorized by some to be connected to a group called Ascensionism that entered urban legend around the same time as the game being released. Ascensionism has been described as a cult that believes in reincarnation and that was apparently hoping to recruit more members with Kanye West. They were rumored to have connections with record labels such as Ascensionism Records, which was later revealed to be co-owned by the game's creator, Clara Hope. Another game would be connected to a group called Calypso, in which the player completes tasks around a house while voice... okay, we'll just leave it to that. Anyway, so there's like some weird secret alternate reality game in this game, Kanye Quest. And I don't know if you've ever stumbled across this type of thing before, but there is a there is this these rabbit trails that get put onto the internet in the form of alternate reality games that seem to be some kind of recruitment tool for I don't know who, secret societies, intelligence agencies, something.
You know what I think it is? Creative writing. I think somebody wrote something creative. And I don't have much opinion on Kanye 2030 other than that. I could talk about Kanye because in my view, Kanye is actually sort of a success story out of hip hop hypnosis. I mean, his recent albums are incredible. They're gospel albums. Eminem had a line where he said, something, something, I'd rather put out a gospel record, sort of mocking the idea of doing that. Kanye does it. And the Jesus is King album is incredible. And his Sunday service album, I've heard great things. So there's sort of this, he sort of broke the spell that you need to create materialistic garbage. He sort of graduated from that. And as far as Kanye, I wish him the best. You know, I hope he's doing great. I don't think he's crazy. I think that a good gauge on people is their opinion of Kanye West. Because if you say, "Oh, he's crazy," it's like it's sort of a normie take, right? I think he's an artist, and I think he's an innovator, and I think he's a very entertaining guy.
Well, do you think when you say breaking out of the hip hop hypnosis spell?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think he was handled? Do you think that because I think there's a lot of evidence that he was being handled by certain types of people.
Definitely. Yeah.
Here's a gauge. Curious Gazelle. Kanye West is crazy.
Curious Gazelle. He's actually great on Twitter. He's actually a pretty cool guy. He's always very inquisitive. But I like Kanye a lot.
At the end of the day, all of these people are human beings.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's 100%. Part of the whole celebrity culture, that they become fetishized, that they're somehow seen as not humans. They're like, we can say horrible things about celebrities that you would never say to somebody's face. You know, that's a big problem with online culture.
He has this great line. He says, tell the devil I'm going on strike. I've been working for you my whole life. And so that's sort of his acknowledgement that a lot of his glorification of materialism has served darker forces. And he's acknowledging that, and he's moving forward. So if I were to talk about one line that encapsulates somebody graduating from hip-hop hypnosis, it's that one line.
Yeah. And I guess it's worth it to give people, like, what would it take for somebody to be redeemed that was part of this cult culture, you know? And it seems like, I mean, I don't know a ton about it, but it seems like he's doing his best. Maybe it's not the way you or I or someone else would do it, but yeah. Dylan says a lot of celebs make it when they're young, so their worldview is going to be drastically different based on fame and fortune. You know, so you got to give people some slack, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that he's been cloned?
I don't buy into the clone stuff. I think that, you know, he's might have changed his perspective, but I think people can be replaced, but I'm not sure about the cloning stuff quite yet.
Well, I was hoping, kind of hoping that Gabe would be here for this reveal, because we've gone this whole stream and we haven't said the P word. So hold it down for me for a second. I'm looking something up.
What's the P word?
I came across today. Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
People in the chat know. Hold it down for me. Say something interesting. Okay, I almost found it. Yeah, what do you think the P word is? I
have no idea. I haven't been fully up to date quite yet.
Okay, so there's I found this article from this week. Synthetic human embryos created in groundbreaking advance. So basically, scientists have created synthetic human embryos using stem cells in a groundbreaking advance that sidesteps the need for eggs or sperm. Synthetic human embryos. So basically, I found this. Oh man, the motivation for the work is for scientists to understand the black box period of development that is so called because scientists are only allowed to cultivate embryos in the lab up to a legal limit of 14 days. They then pick up the course of development much further along by looking at pregnancy scans and embryos donated for research. So basically, they're like, the gist of this article is that they are creating like with this synthetic in the synthetic sense, they're creating placentas without an actual baby attached to them. I was really wanting Gabriel to be here because he would just be like, placenta is the P word, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. I don't get that stuff in terms of like, the caw and all this sort of birth gravy. There's a lot there, but I'll get there when I need to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. So anyway, I just find that this is it's interesting that it's coming out into the open that the science trademark has it always been and is clearly super interested in the placenta thing. Why they're announcing that they're able to synthetically create those is there's homunculus shit is basically what we're looking at here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about Kanye being a clone, but Dylan says Anchor Bear posted a photo a week or so ago of Kanye, and it did not look like the original Kanye. Good job, everybody in the chat. Rachel, my cherie, knew what the P word was.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Anchor Bear has been doing good work on Kanye. I'm kind of over it. I think that, he went on a really hilarious media run, and I think it's really cool that him and Owen had a friendship for a while. I think that's the coolest thing. But I do find it a little bit strange that I don't think they've been in contact. Hopefully Ye's doing great. He could have been replaced. Who knows? We will pray for Mr. Ye. It's kind of weird. He's walking around with shoulder pads, but he's somebody who is hilarious at a high level, and he's trolling at a high level, and he's achieved a lot in his life. Here's the thing, man. I'll be in the gym, Kanye song. I'll go get a smoothie, Kanye song. So he's pervasive, dude. He's got a catalog. He's got a catalog and a half. That man, for sure.
Yeah, man. So what else are you into lately? We'll
kind of wind it down here. What am I into lately? Astrotheology, sort of intro level still. Astrology, intro level, loving it. Reading about, the chakra system, enjoying it so much. Reading a book called Working on the Surface Acid book. I'm busting ass for that to be available this fall, and correcting some things in this book, actually, which I really appreciate you pointing out. And 2 books out this year. I got a 3rd book. It's called, it's kind of zombie oriented, sort of satirical. That one's coming out. And then eventually I'm writing like an athletic health book, because I'm obsessed with the health stuff. It's one of the few things we can control in our lives is our own health. And that's also what I'm into. So I got at least 1 book coming out every year, something I can put my balls into while I'm not, working, because sort of having a creative outlet, I think, is so important. And I think it's wonderful that people enjoy a product that you create. And it's like, it's not about making it big. It's about making an impact on one reader. If you sell 1 book, or you don't want to sell 1, you want to sell a bunch, but you want people to enjoy it. You want people to love it. And that's just a good energy exchange. And that gets you motivated to work on the next one and improve upon the next one. So there's something sort of alchemical here. This is the soil. Okay. The next book is going to be sort of water oriented.
More like the manure in the soil.
Yeah, no. Yeah. The soil, the manure. Yeah, exactly. The chart. Yeah, exactly. Whatever you want to call it. The Sharter is the solution, is what I've been saying, because I do believe, Chance, that we are sort of at the end of a cycle here, especially after the 2020 to 2022 period, right? The 2023, 2024, we're going up, but we got to start from the ground up. And
I totally agree.
Yeah.
My personal life, for sure.
Yep.
Top of the charts, people.
Yeah. Let's get there. Let's get to the top of the charts, baby. So, but honestly, get the ebook, get the paperback, enjoy it. I'm working so hard on my 2nd book. Any feedback, negative, is welcome, because then I'll put it this way, man. If you got something on your face, like a piece of broccoli or some shit, and people don't say anything,
are they really?
I'm suspect of them. I'm suspect of those people who don't say anything. I'm greatly appreciative of the friend who points something out and says, "Hey, man, that's broccoli on your face." Something like that. You see what I'm saying here? So any negative criticism is welcome as well. I appreciate that almost more than positive criticism.
Well, packaging is important too. It's like, you don't want to, there's a certain type that is just waiting for the grammatical error so that they can like attack. but constructive criticism, we got to have it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If we're too sensitive for it, then what are we doing? Now, I
need
wanted
it.
to ask though, as an eternal athlete, as you
Yes.
self-style, what can you tell us guys out there about keeping our vessel at a high performing level? You know,
Barefoot
that's a whole other
sprinting.
subject matter. I would like to,
Yeah.
I'm personally into that. So I would like to know what your thoughts are.
What I like to do, so I get a lot of exercise at work because I'm in construction. So I don't go to the gym 5 days. I go to the gym once a week nowadays. So I think it's important if you're a young man to get into some sort of physical endeavor, whether it's preferably some sort of physical occupation, but find something that you love to do. I don't care if it's skating. I don't care if it's surfing. I don't care if it's football, basketball. Find something you love to do physical. What do I do nowadays? At least once a week, I love to do a sprinting barefoot workout. Go to any soccer field, any outfield during off hours. There's nobody around. Morning, maybe during the day, depends where you're at. I don't care if you live in New York. I don't care if you live in Los Angeles. You live somewhere where there's a field. Everybody does. There's a soccer field. There's a baseball field. What I do is I do 10 100-yard sprints. I go about 80, 90%. And I do them barefoot, and you basically get high after because you feel so good, and it's very primal. And besides lifting heavy weights, I mean, sprinting, ask yourself a question. When's the last time that you sprinted? For some people, it's fucking decades since the last time they sprinted. And if you're going to sprint, barefoot on grass is one of the best places to do it. You're going to build calves. You're going to build calves like a University of Miami defensive back. Okay. Sprinting barefoot. And that's something I love to do. I love to shoot hoops. I love to lift weights. One of the reasons why I love to lift weights heavily, because when I get in there, it's only once a week nowadays, but you feel so much better mentally. Any problems that you were having anxiety about is, damn, 10 huddles is no, it's not, but you can work your way up there. Start with 2, start with 4, whatever you want to work with. But yeah, I love weights because you just feel whatever problems you got are almost gone once you get in there and you get out. The modern day gym is like a nightclub. That can be kind of fun. Let's be honest. It's not all bad. It can be pretty great.
Dude, totally. There's the feeling after a good lift session is unparalleled. Ask Jenny how good a mood I'm in when I come home from the gym in the morning.
Yeah.
And sprinting barefoot, I see a lot of appeal in that. I actually have one of the most common recurring dreams for me that I have is running full speed barefoot through grass. Like I have that dream all the time.
Then you should do it.
I do it. Yeah, I don't
definitely
do that. I don't do much
because a lot of people in the holistic health space, they'll ground. It's like
I walk barefoot every day all the time.
Right. But it's like, dude, when you sprint barefoot, that's gonna amplify everything times 100. And you're going to get high and you're going to feel very primal. And like, dude, sprinting is, man, that's high octane stuff. And you're going to look good. You're going to feel good. So I didn't start doing that till like 5 years ago, but I haven't been able to stop. And it's something that I look forward to whenever the spring rolls around. It's time to get running. Cause distance can be kind of fun, but distance isn't that fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's more like long-term sustained effort that has its own psychological thing to it that has got positive elements. But I think the takeaway from what you're saying, even if it isn't sprinting, particularly for men, I feel this is super important, but you got to like look at yourself and ask the question, how often do I exert 100% effort at anything? And that can apply to more mental tasks. Like, it takes a lot of effort to write a book, I'm sure.
Oh my God, dude. Waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning, working all weekend, but it's a labor of love. The thing for me with writing books, it's like, okay, I do construction. I'll be there on time. I'll give it 100%. I'll be there, man. Am I going to wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning to do it? No, I'm not. Am I going to wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning to work on a book? Yeah. So I should keep doing that. Right. And am I going to voluntarily spend weekend after weekend after weekend working on a book? Absolutely. It's torture, but I love it, and, so we finally got an end product, and I hope people enjoy it. So, everybody wants to write a book, man, but you got to go through a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain in this game. That's for sure.
Yeah, you gotta. I'm sure that process requires you to really face yourself, especially in the revision.
Yeah,
All right, man.
absolutely.
Well, unless you got any good closing thoughts for the people, I think we'll ramp this baby up. It's been fun.
Yeah. It's
Thanks
been
for sending me this book and the
yeah.
laughs that I got out of it. It's been cool to be friends with you over the last however many months, that we've known each other. And hopefully this ain't the last one we do. Keep showing up in the streams, and you've been on the Vibe Rant. So if you're ever watching a Vibe Rant and you're like, I want to get in there, I got something to say, or you want to leave us a voicemail, let me know. Send you a link.
Yeah, I have one final question for you, Chance. Speaking of the Vibe Rant, I want you to tell me quickly about the shows that you have and sort of the different themes. So there's Vibe Rant, there's sort of the InnerVerse, and then there's there's a few others that you got. I just want you to tell the new viewers, because I kind of always wanted to ask you this, like the themes of each of these shows, right?
So InnerVerse is where I started, right? I wanted to have a place where the flow state of conscious conversation, I could engage on that regularly, because I was having so many really good, deep chats with friends or with people that inspired me in real life as I started to find a new community in a more artistic and creative realm. And everything you talked about with hip hop hypnosis, I could do a parody like that on the jam band and electronic music scene.
Mm-hmm.
and music festivals. The hedonism there is like cranked up to the max, and the way that people follow around their favorite jam band like Fish or something is possibly even more worse and more disassociative than a lot of the fans of hip hop that maybe go to the occasional super expensive rap concert. So that aside, though, there's a lot of good in those worlds, and I wanted to have a space where I could engage that flow state. So InnerVerse was that, and been doing that one the longest, of course. And it's also where I can learn things and share what I'm learning as I'm learning it. I think that's the new model, is the teach as you learn model. That seems to be where the world is going. I think that's a very honest way to operate. And it's also better than the way that teaching used to work, where somebody would become hyper expertise in one subject, but then as they were stuck to that subject for years and decades and so on, that their attachment to it possesses them of a dishonesty to look at anything that might contradict what it was they've established themselves upon. So I know I have a couple of things that are like my thing, like some symbolism and philology and energy work and tuning and all that, but I also try to keep moving forward with new interests, as keep pushing the envelope forward, teach as I learn. Now, Vibe Rant, originally I started that because I wanted to do a show that was always live. Obviously, by the title, it's supposed to be more fun, more free, less, academic or scholarly was the original plan. This is a good conversation that's an example of that, where it's funny and fun. Mm-hmm. And the first few episodes were like way more loose and casual and funny. But as it's gone on, it's kind of just become an outlet where it's sort of evolved to where, rather being just about kind of goofing off, having fun, and hanging out every Wednesday with all of us, although that's still there. And I wanted it to be a community show where people can call in, and we still get that. All right. You're banned. You're annoying. Hold on a second. This person's annoying me. Anyway, yeah, banned for life.
See ya.
Hold on. Okay. All right. And no more. Okay. So, yeah. So community oriented. We get to have the opportunity for call-ins, right? But the thing that it's really evolved into, and this episode's not really like that, but we have, a larger panel show comes into play. And I have a roster of regulars that I can bring on and say, I'm going to talk to somebody about a subject that's musical oriented, like this topic. I can hit up Yorgo, George Mesa. He was busy tonight, so we didn't get him on. But, for example, I have people that are really good on certain subjects. I bring them in for that subject as an extra panelist. And it's so much fun to have like the cast of characters that Vibe Rant has got. And I look forward to continuing to expand that. And then I have the Marvelous Demystifiers. That's the thing. We obviously were decoding Marvel shows. That one's taken a bit of a lull, but I think me and Gabe are going to bring that back pretty quick and in a hurry. I've got a lot of stuff that I want to demystify in that realm. I mean, we could potentially do almost everything Marvel ever made and get a lot out of it. It's really, really good stuff. That's maybe the most fun show sometimes. And then apart from that, those are the 3 shows that I do. And the least regular one being Marvelous Demystifiers. I will say, I think there's a pretty high likelihood that once I'm done with the last Spirit World audiobook, that we'll see a more regular, maybe even like a Spirit World podcast with me and Dylan and
Let's
you know,
go.
keeping up with his research. I
Yep.
really want that to happen. I think that's going to happen. I'm not
Yep.
like, I'm not announcing an announcement or anything, but it seems very likely. So if there was going to be another show added to the roster, that's what it would be. But I want to finish the next audiobook first, making good
Awesome.
progress.
Yeah,
And
I've read
since
the
he's doing
first
more of a
4.
Substack thing, which you should think about. Substack's a
What?
good way to
Oh, I have
you know-
Substack. I have the Dawg Hour on Substack. I have articles. I have a podcast, audio podcast that I do. But yeah, I'm 4 books deep on Spirit World, so I'm up to date, up to book 4. You know, for the most part. But I
Sweet.
love the first one's my personal favorite.
Are you are you doing audiobooks or reading them?
I read them. I don't do audiobooks. I don't do any audiobooks.
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, not to talk you guys out of buying my audiobook versions, but I think reading it is the best way to go. But it's good to have both. It's good as a review tool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Well, does that answer your question? Kabir's Vibe Rant rules. I think the Vibe Rant might be the most fun.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about Lizzo?
Dude, she's the final boss. If you stay under hip hop hypnosis, you're going to get smothered by Lizzo. That's the final message I have. So read the Sharter or you're going to get smothered. Okay. Lizzo's coming for you with a body slam. All right. All right, man.
Yeah, man. And this subject is far from over. There's all kinds of things we could analyze in more granular detail, like music videos and the occult, dark occult symbolism. But yeah, that may be for another day. So thanks for coming and hanging out, man. It's been fun. And everybody watch out for Lizzo. You should probably buy the Sharter so that that fate does not befall you.
Yes.
All right. Good night, man. Good night, everybody.
All right, guys. See ya.